Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I begin with the name of Almighty Allah, who is the most gracious and merciful. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Today, inshallah, we will discuss on the another theory related to the atomic theory, and this is the most important theory in the history of chemistry, that is explaining the structure of the atom, and it's about the fundamental particles of the atom, that are electron, proton and neutrons. So students, in 1930, a scientist known as the Niels Bohr presented his theory, which is known as the atomic theory. Actually, this theory was presented to detect and to overcome the defects of Rutherford's atomic model. So students, this theory is presented by the Niels Bohr, which was a scientist, and he tend to overcome the defects of Rutherford's atomic theory. And the Rutherford's atomic theory has been learned in the previous topics and in the previous lecture. So students, we know that the defects of Rutherford atomic models are the Rutherford atomic model was based on the laws of motions and the laws of gravitation, which are applicable to the neutral bodies. But here, in case of charged bodies, Rutherford atomic models, which is based on the laws of motion and the laws of gravitation, and due to the laws of gravitation and the laws of the motion is based, these laws cannot be applicable on the charged bodies. And the second defect, which was rejected by the scientists in the Rutherford atomic theory, was that the Maxwell theories explaining the electrons are charged bodies revolving around the nucleus and should make the energy continuously. And when electron is emitting energy continuously, then ultimately the time should become that they release all of their energy and has been fall in the nucleus. So in the real, it does not happen. And the third one is that if electrons radiate energy continuously, then the continuous spectrum will be obtained. But when the experiments are done, that in actual cases the continuous spectrum is not obtained, but a line spectrum is obtained. And the fourth one was that the Rutherford atomic theory does not provide any explanation about the chemical properties of the elements. So to overcome these defects, Niels Bohr presented his theory of atom, which is known as the Niels Bohr's atomic theory. So the main postulates and the main points of the Niels Bohr theory are: electrons are revolving around the nucleus in one of the circular path, which we call the energy level, or known as orbit. So we can also call them shells. Students, Niels Bohr theory's first postulate, or the first point, is that the electrons are revolving around the nucleus in one of the fixed circular paths called shells or orbits. Each orbit has a fixed energy. And these orbits are also called the levels or energy levels. So students, the main point and the main concept in this point is that the electrons revolve around the nucleus in a fixed path known as energy level, orbit or shell, and each orbit has a fixed energy. And the second one is that the energy of electron in an orbit is proportional to its distance from the nucleus. From the proportional means whenever the distance increases, energy also increases. The increase by the increasing of distance, energy is also increasing. So further the electrons from the nucleus, then higher will be the energy and vice versa. So the students, as long as the distance of the shell from the nucleus, it means that that particular orbit has a greater energy from the orbit which is nearer to the nucleus, because the nearest orbits have less energy. Because of that, the nucleus has the hold on the nearer shells, and the farther shells are not in as such control of the nucleus. Therefore, the shells that are present further than the nucleus has the more energy. Okay, and the third one is that as long as electrons are revolving around the nucleus in fixed circular orbits, they do not gain or lose energy. It means that the orbit or shell or the energy level has a fixed energy. This point explaining that each of the orbit has its fixed energy. By the revolving of electron, energy cannot be increased or cannot be lost by the electron. And the fourth one is when an electron jumps from a high energy orbit to the lower energy orbit, it radiates energy, and when it jumps from lower energy orbit to the high energy orbit, it absorbs energy. At this point, it is said that when an electron is moving from the lower energy level to the high energy level, it will absorb the sum of energy for its excitation. When the electron has to be excited, then this electron will move from this lower energy level or from this lower energy shell, or the shell that has lower energy, then the electron will move to high energy level. So whenever electron move from high energy level to the low energy level, it will release its energy to because electron want to match its energy to the shell in which he is going. It means that when electron move from high energy level to lower energy level, then it will release energy. And whenever electrons release energy, they form a spectrum, which is actually showing the release of energy by the electron. And the difference of energy can be explained by the equation, which is del E is equal to E2 minus E1. So the students, this triangle is pronounced as del, and it is pronounced as del E. Del E means the change in energy. So in this equation is representing that how we measure the change of energy, that the which amount of energy is absorbed by the electron to move to the high energy level, and then which amount of energy is released by the electron for moving to lower energy level. So this equation is explaining the change in the energy. E2, in this equation, E2 is a high energy level and E1 is a low energy level. And whenever electron move from high energy level to the low energy level, then it is understood that electron will release energy. So finding this difference of energy, we will minus the energy from high energy level energy to from high energy levels energy a low energy level, or the energy of low energy level. So this equation will be equal to h mu. Now in this equation we are explaining that what is del E, what is E2 and what is E1 and what is H and what is mu. And del E, students, is the difference of energy, or we can say it as a change in energy. And E2 is the high energy orbit, E1 is a lower energy orbit, and H is the Planck's constant. Now the question is that what is a Planck's constant? Students, actually the Planck's constant is the constant which is given by a scientist known as the Max Planck. So what's the meaning of Planck's constant? So the meaning of Planck's constant is that how much energy of a photon increases when the frequency of electromagnetic wave increases by the unit 1. So it means that Planck's constant is planning the amount of energy of a photon. Photon is a light particle. So it is explaining that the amount of energy will be increased when the frequency of electromagnetic wave increases. So what is the mu? Mu is the frequency. And now we are moving to the point number 5. So point number 5 is saying that electron can reside in any one of the orbit and cannot stay in between them. So students, we know that in the previous topic we relate the electrons to solar system, and we know that in solar systems the planets are moved in their particular orbits, which is known as the path of that particular planet. So the planets move in their particular path. So now we can say that like the planets, electrons will also move in their specified path, which is known as the energy level or orbit of that electron. So Neil Bohr is explaining that electron will move in its path, which is a shell energy level or its orbit. Electrons will only move in their orbits, nor in the path which is between the orbits. And we know that Bohr's atomic model explained that between the orbits there is a empty space. So it is understood that electrons cannot move in the space, they have to move, and they will move in their particular path, which is the orbit. The next point, which is the point number 6, is that angular momentum of an electron is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi. So what is angular momentum of electron? The angular momentum For angular momentum, first we should know about the momentum. What is momentum? So students, we know that momentum is the product of mass and velocity. Now, by the combining of word angular, we mean the movement of electron in a circular path or a path in which the electron make an angle, or we can also say that the angular momentum is the measure of rotational momentum of angular body. In short, we can say that the distance of an object from rotational axis multiply with the linear momentum. So in short, students, we can say that the angular momentum is actually the distance covered by the electron in its circular path by adopting a type of motion which is known as the rotational motion. So the sixth point is that the angular momentum of an electron is the integral multiple of h by 2 pi. H by 2 pi, and therefore angular momentum momentum is mv, and r is due to the radius due to the circular path. So angular momentum will be mvr. Now we will equalize the equation. Mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. Now n is equal to the number of shell, and there may be 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. M is the mass of electron velocity, and v is the velocity of electron. R is the radius of the orbit in which electron is revolving. R is the radius of orbit. H is the Planck's constant, and its value is 6.6262 multiplied by 10 raised to power minus 34. And the students, we have discussed about the Planck's constant, also discussed that the radius, actually the radius is the distance of, actually the radius is a distance from nucleus to the end of the circle, or we can also say that the half of the circular path. And what is the velocity? And velocity is the rate of change of position with respect to the frame of reference in time. In short, we can say that in velocity a body is moving, and by movement they change their position in the time t. Now we are moving ahead. That orbit defined by Bohr is called shell or an energy level, and these are represented by the alphabets, by the capital alphabets K, L, M, N, and so on. The first orbit from the nucleus is known as the K, and the second orbit from the nucleus is L, and the third orbit from the nucleus is M. And electrons present in K shell will be n is equal to 1 and have the least energy, because nucleus has maximum hold to the nearest orbit. And the electrons present in the L shell is equal to 2, and same as in the next shell there will be n is equal to 3 and so on. Now students, move to page number 47, fundamental particles of atom. From the word fundamental means the basic particles of the atoms, and we know that the atom has three main particles which combines and form the atom. And we know that the atom consists of electron, proton and neutron. These are also known as the subatomic particles. And we also know that the electron, which is a subatomic particle, have the negative charge, and its mass is equal to 0.000548597 AMU. From AMU means atomic mass unit. And if we weight it in kg in standard unit, so this mass will be equal to 9.11 multiplied by 10 raised to power minus 31, and the charge of electron will be equal to 1.6022 multiplied with 10 raised to power minus 19 coulombs. And we also know that, and we have learned in the previous topics, that electrons are the particles which are known as the subatomic particle and moves around the nucleus in a circular path, which is known as the orbit, energy level or shell. And the next one is proton. We also know that proton is a positively charged particle which contain mass equal to 1.0072766 AMU, and the charge of proton is 1.6022 multiplied by 10 raised to power minus 19. So the students, we noted that the charge of electron and the charge of proton is equal in terms of coulombs. So the proton is heavier than the electron in 1837 times, and electron and the proton is present in the nucleus. And the third one is neutron, which is present in the nucleus and have no charge. Its mass is equal to 1.0086654 AMU, and the neutron is 1482 times heavier than the electron. That is the reason that nucleus contains the heaviest particles. Due to this, nucleus is heavier than the orbital region, and we can say that the nucleus impart to the atomic mass. So the students, number of electrons are equal to the number of protons. By equaling in the numbers by the presence in equal number, they will cancel the effect of each other. The electrons negatively charges will be cancel the positive charges of the protons. Then As a whole, atom will be a neutral. Therefore, we say that an atom is the neutral particle. Here the table 2.1 explaining the subatomic particles, and it is giving the summary of this whole topic. So the students, now it's the end of my lecture. That is the end of today's lecture. If you people like this, and you can give me positive feedback. If you people don't like this video and you have any misconception, or you are not understanding any point of this lecture, you can text me, and you can also comment me in the comment section by giving your opinions, by your precious suggestions. You can tell me about your suggestions, and the points which are not being included by me, you can tell me without feeling hesitation. And if you want to take the notification, or if you want to be updated from the course of 9th class, you can subscribe my channel, you can subscribe my videos, so that you can receive the notifications of upcoming videos, and in this way you can be updated and be aware of the whole course. So take care of yourself, and Allah Hafiz.